Hello everyone, this is Nareen with MS. I am Nareen and it's time for a Sunday check-in. And this Sunday, I did want to talk about something that is pretty exciting. Um, one thing that I do want to share with you is that it has been, I want to say, over 2 months that I actually started yoga. And one of the great things, I mean, you saw a couple of days ago that I was able to put my foot right in front of my face, which I probably wouldn't have been able to, especially because it was my weaker leg. But more so than that, is the fact that now I am sort of in the headspace of actually wanting to do more yoga. And it has come to the point where I actually look for, you know, ways to do certain asanas that I used to do before and haven't been able to for a while. For example, Surya Namaskar. For example, the Surya Namaskar is a 12-step asana where you are pretty much getting a very you know front to back mobility of your body, um, moving both front and back, and of course the great thing is that the Surya Namaskars complement the Chandra Namaskar actually allows you to move left to right. So really you're pretty much getting with those two exercises or those two asanas, those two processes, you're pretty much exercising your entire body. And one of the great things is that I have found certain variations of the Surya Namaskar that I can do comfortably right now. But of course, that is just, a step towards being able to do the original Surya Namaskar. And now that I am at least seeing the changes that yoga has been doing to me by making me a little more flexible, um, by making my endurance better, by even to some extent slowly increasing my strength, I can comfortably say that, I don't know how long it will take. Maybe it could take a year, maybe 2 years, maybe even 3. But if I continue on this path, hopefully at one point in time, I will be able to go back to doing a Surya Namaskar. And not only that, but there is a magical number that does come with a Surya Namaskar, which is 108. Now there you have to do the Surya Namaskar 108 times for it to be for it to supposedly have the maximum benefit. And 108 is definitely a very tall number. I think generally when people have gone on to do that many Surya Namaskars, it generally takes about at least I want to say over almost 2 hours, right? We are talking, if it takes you 1 minute to do, let's say, a Surya Namaskar, which is, spending about 5 minutes to go from one asana to another, that which I think is a good amount of time, then it would take 108 minutes to do it, right? I mean, even if you speed it up, I'd say it will still take at least an hour to get 108 Surya Namaskars. But this time around, the one thing that I do want, the one big goal that I do want to set myself up for is getting to that 108 number. And I am looking at it as a very long term goal, because there are actually two goals within it, right? So one thing that happens with the Surya Namaskar is, there is one foot, there is one leg that does take the lead when you are doing the Surya Namaskar. It is the main leg that actually ends up moving throughout, the entire process. And because of that, you can almost say that, me doing 108 could mean two things: me doing 54 on one side and then 54 on another, so it's 108 total, or doing 108 in on one side, which means there would be a 216 um, 216 reps done, 108 reps on each side, which would definitely that would definitely take uh, at least 1.5 hours to do. So it is definitely a very long drawn out process, and it will definitely take a very long time to reach to that level. But that is one thing that I do want to set for myself, because it is a long enough goal, so that I will continue to keep working on it day after day after day. Because one thing I have noticed, or at least one thing that I know about myself, is I would set a certain goal. I would say, okay, I want to work until I see this happening, until I see a certain amount of muscle building on a certain body part, or I want to see myself lose a certain amount of weight. And once I would reach that goal, I would completely stop working out. So the drawback to that, or pretty much the whiplash that would happen, was that the amount of time it took me to reach that goal, it would take me less than half the time to go back to what I was before. So setting myself a long-term goal, which definitely will take me years and years to pretty much succeed in, will hopefully allow me to build the discipline to continue this practice even after I have achieved my goal. Because hopefully by the time I reach the second goal, which is doing 216 Surya Namaskar, it definitely means that my body should pretty much be invincible at that point in time. Because not only am I able to have the flexibility to be able to move my body that much, but also have the endurance to be able to do, uh, pretty much push my body to certain limits of stretching for that number of repetitions. And then apart from that, also continue to keep doing it and keep looking to improve myself over a very long course of events. So this is a very tall order, right? And I know that there is a very high likelihood that it may happen, or it may be a little too out of my reach. But at the same time, if you're not pushing yourself to the limits, then why do you want to stay in the same place every day and ask yourself, why am I not improving? So that is, as you can probably tell, it is a very tall order. It is definitely going to require a lot of discipline. It is going to require it is definitely going to require a lot of patience. It will definitely, I do foresee myself crying, and that being more or less a daily thing. But the one thing I know is that if I do set that goal for myself, I'll at least be busy for uh, you know the next, at least the next decade for that matter. So yeah, hopefully you can join me on this journey as I pretty much start this process. And really, to start in this process will mean that, you know, um, will mean that as of now, I cannot do a single one, right? So we are pretty much starting from before scratch, right? There is nothing on the table right now. So really, to start from here to get to that magical 108 is definitely going to be, a very big goal. But of course, the first step to get to even doing one or maybe two, right? Because it's one side and then the other side, to get to that in itself is going to be really the first half of the battle won. So hopefully you can join me on this. But of course, I do want your thoughts on it. What are your thoughts, your insights, your experiences? And of course, if you do have any tips to give me, any beneficial advice to provide, please do give it. Please do share it in the comment section of this video so that we can get the conversation started. And of course, I can learn a little something, not only about, the actual goal itself, but more about just being able to do it, just being able to mentally build that discipline in myself to do it. But and so I am so excited, very happy to have you join me in this journey. And of course, with that said, this is Narain's Life with MS. I am Narain, and yeah, I do hope your weekend went very well. I do hope you did get the much needed rest you need, that you probably needed from last week, and you are all ready to begin the next week off very strong. So, with all of that said, here is me wishing you a good night, sweet dreams, and I will catch you tomorrow. Bye.